when I was going through like some really bad times in my life, uh, my best friend, we moved in together, and he had this charming way of just accepting that bad shit was going to happen. To me, and I was telling you before the show, I struggle, or I used to struggle with that a lot, because being a director, like my job is to make things happen, is to have a vision and move this here, move this here. Like as a producer, you put things in place and then you make it happen. But it's really hard to produce your life, even when you're trying. But I remember my friend tells me all the time, Abraham, he's like, well, just decide what story you want to live. And let's just see what the story is. And man, that's something that I'm learning. I think I've gotten a lot better, because it's a weird, crazy story. And the moment you enjoy that story that you're living and that little piece that you're putting here and there, it gets a lot easier. Life gets a lot more fun.
Well, don't try and fight life. I'm not saying let all of life happen to you, but you got to flow with it. You got to flow with it. You got to try and stop battling against it. It wants to take you where it needs to take you, because there's a lesson there for you to learn, you know? And when you take mushrooms, for argument's sake, and you go on a mushroom journey, many of you might not have experienced that listen to this podcast, but I've been on a couple of mushroom journeys with shamans and been on this kind of spiritual path and to learn more about myself. With a mushroom journey, you think to yourself, I'm going to take this hero dose of mushrooms guided by this shaman, and I'm going to go to where I think the problem is in my life and figure it out. And you get taken to a totally different place, and you see yourself in a totally different light, and you see the real problem, not the problem you thought you had, the problem below that or above that or around that, or something completely different that alleviates that. What a lot of humans think their problem is and what their actual problem is are two different scenarios. And many people think a lot of their limits are money, opportunity, this, that, and the other, and they're not. They think it's the limit of money, of opportunity. But the truth is, you can create an opportunity by walking into the right coffee shop. You can create an opportunity by bumping into some guy at a house in LA. Like, you can create an opportunity. It's not your limiting thing. Your limiting thing is your mindset towards what's happening in your life, your mindset to perception of something is bad versus something is good. You should just be nonplussed on whether something's positive or negative. It's like that. The phone. Go back to the example of this phone call before this podcast for me. Is it positive? Is it negative? Axel, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I tell you one thing about it. It's meant to happen. Whatever happens on that phone call is meant to happen. So here's the way I framed it. If my mastermind is cancelled, I'm obviously meant to be in Dubai or LA, right? If it's not, I'm obviously meant to be in Australia for the next 3 weeks or a month. I'm not bothered which, because I'll let the world figure that out. I'll just flow with the game that it's given me, and I'll flow with it. But the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to take my vibrational state in my mind down to a low vibrational state by putting myself in fear, anger, doubt, uncertainty. I'm not going to live there, because it's by keeping yourself in that low vibrational state that you can't elevate and open your mind to the world of opportunities that you have. I will create opportunity wherever I land. Wherever I land, I will create opportunity, and I will make it as abundant as possible. If I landed in Sarasota today, I could create a podcast. I could find a studio. I could find a way to make money. I could do something.
Yeah. And those are usually the things that end up working out the best. Isn't that crazy?
Absolutely.
Like even us here now, like we're moving, we're in between studios. We didn't have a place. Like this wasn't even in the books. Like
Yeah.
you just texted me out of the blue. Hey, I want to be in LA like this week. And then we just made it happen, and like it works. So that is a beautiful thing that I'm learning to accept that more in my life.
You reached out to me a long time ago and the times just weren't right. I was in Australia, or I was in Dubai, or I was in London, or somewhere else. I was traveling around doing podcasts. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
But when the timing was right, it works.
Yeah.
Right. And people are trying to force timings. You don't need to force the timing.
Yeah.
You just need to take the daily steps towards your goals. And this might be hard for a lot of people to hear. But if you sat there, if you're sitting there on your car on the way to work this morning, or you're listening to this walking in the park, or you're in the gym right now, ask yourself just about today, have I taken the steps towards the greatest version of myself today? Have I done that? Do I even know what I think the greatest version of myself looks like? If you say no to either of those questions, you're kind of in this, what I call holding pattern. There's a holding pattern to life where you kind of spin your gears, spin your wheels, think about things, let things flow around, all this kind of stuff. It's a bit woo-woo. It's a bit, oh, yeah. That's not where you want to be. Where you want to be is like, I've made the decision that I want this kind of life. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I think by walking towards this and this and this, that it could lead me there. And if not, I'll figure it out. But at least you have a plan. The people that don't have a plan to fail. You plan to fail. You can't hit a target you cannot see. You'll 100% miss every target you haven't, even if you haven't scheduled a target, you'll miss it every time, every day of the week. So at least have one. If you find out, like I did, that some of your targets are where you've lent your ladder against the wrong wall in life, so what? That's a lesson. That's a beautiful lesson in itself. I'll give you an example. I was a professional boxing trainer, one of the youngest in British boxing history. I spent 6-7 years qualifying, doing all the stuff, working with boxers, working my way up. I get to the pinnacle event, a world title fight, WBO world title, Jeff Horn versus Gary Cochran. I was in Gary Cochran's corner. So picture the scene. I walk into the ring with the fighters. I'm stood there. This is my dream. I'm in front of 15,000 fans all around this arena. Yeah, the fans are going crazy. It's on 4 channels in the USA. It's on 1 in the UK. It's on 1 in Australia. It's a mental environment. You know, Michael Buffer's there saying, "Let's get ready to rumble." All this is going on, right? Everything. This is my dream. This has been my dream since I was a child to experience this. I knew I wasn't talented enough as a boxer, so as a trainer was my only hope to do this. As he's announcing the fight, and as he's looking out, as I'm looking out at the crowd, my eyes kind of glazed over, and I realised in that moment I'd spent my whole life with my ladder leant against the wrong wall. And you'll say to me like, why is that then? Well, I realised in that moment that the only reason I wanted to become this boxing trainer, and the only reason why I wanted to stand, and the only reason why I wanted to do this, was just so that I could prove other people wrong.
Well, guys, thank you so much for checking in for this episode. I hope you love it. And if you did, send it to a friend. And if you can, check out this other interview over here. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. We'll see you in the next one.